Today, we are digging into Nintendo's comments on Switch 2 stock and scalpers, something that you are very, very nervous about and continue to be nervous about. And we're also going to be telling a story behind the scenes of the Nintendo World Championships in 2015 because that new game is releasing this week. So, yay!
It's a packed episode, and yes, this is my deepest, darkest fear. I've been expressing to you my concern for months now over being able to get a Switch 2, and I think it's interesting that the topic has been brought up by Nintendo.
Right.
We'll see whether their comments make me feel better, worse, or somewhere in the middle. But yeah, it's a big topic we want to dig into.
Yeah. Well, first of all, let's talk about your face.
What
has happened to you? We have been on vacation.
I haven't seen you in 2 weeks. I've barely spoken to you in 2 weeks, and this is what happens.
Why do you look like Luigi?
This is the natural progression of things.
Please tell the good people the choices behind this look.
Well,
this vibe.
I've been cast in the new Top Gun movie. I'm in search of photographs of Spider-Man. Fill in the blank with whatever joke you'd like, but so I'm in the process of coming up with some sort of new hairstyle. I don't know what.
And it's like style
and it's like until I figure out what that is, I might as well try every combination of things. Now, I will fully admit this ain't working. But I figure it's like, it'd be good. Over the weekend, I had this over the weekend. I was like, it'd be good to have this for the podcast, just for laughs and for posterity, for the memes, if nothing else, for the memes.
It's not on brand, first of all, because your little portrait of yourself looks nothing like this mustache.
I can never change. Yes.
I'm going to have to change our little portraits to a picture of me and a picture of Luigi, I think.
Well, I may be getting rid of this moments after we finish this podcast. So again, enjoy it while it lasts.
Do it while the podcast is going. Just start shaving.
And again, this is what happens when I win bets. So imagine what happens when I lose bets.
Oh man,
it just gets even worse.
One could only image the travesty that would
embrace change. This is my life lesson to everybody, specifically you.
True. I agree. Like we said, we have been on our summer vacations. This is our
I'm
first
back.
You're back.
Vacation's
I'm coming back
over
tomorrow. So tomorrow vacation is
good.
Over. Literally, we've been sort of traveling around different parts of Asia. You were in Korea, which is super cool. I was in Vietnam with my family, which was really cool as well. But yeah, how was your vacation? What have you been up to? Tell me everything.
It was great. Yes, as usual, I like to ask for your vacation highlight, but also the low light.
Yeah,
I think the low light can be just as telling as the highlight.
Yeah.
I'll start with my low light. So yes, again, I was in South Korea, and I got a lot of tips from people in our Patreon community who'd either been to Korea or some people had lived in Korea for a while.
It's pretty cool, yeah.
And one of the hot tips that I got was, some people know Korean fried chicken is a thing and it's delicious. And somebody said, there's a place that is the best fried chicken I've ever had in my life.
Oh!
It is the strangely named Mom's Touch. Again, strangely named. Why is it named that? I don't know. And I've started looking up Mom's Touch, and I found a couple, but they're all kind of out of the city center of Seoul. It's like, okay, this is kind of a trek, but it sounds so good. And I actually was seeing advertisements for it in the subway too. And I was like, I got to try this. I got to try this Mom's Touch. And I made the trip out there. It was a normal time. It was like 6 o'clock. I got all the way there and it was closed. And I was crestfallen. And I had tears in my eyes at the failure of the Mom's Touch.
You didn't get Mom's Touch at all.
I didn't.
Mom did not touch you.
I did try one of the other famous big fried chicken places, which was good, but I'll just never know. But there is potentially a positive twist. I have heard that Mom's Touch is expanding to Japan. Who's going to Japan in a few months? You and I. So maybe we can experience Mom's Touch together.
Mom's Touch.
Yes.
I would love to experience Mom's Touch with you. That sounds exciting.
I think that's great. Yeah. So that's my low light.
Okay. My low light is I had fallen down on this trip. People that know me really well, like you, know that I am very klutzy. And I tend to fall quite often, honestly. But I kind of did take a bad fall when I was walking around. It had rained a little bit, and I slipped. I was in this like kind of like a steep staircase, and I slipped. But it wasn't like I was bleeding or whatever. But I think I did something really bad to my knee.
Internal.
Unfortunately.
Yes.
Yeah, I did hear like a popping sound. So I'm like, did I tear my ACL? Did I damage, did I hurt? Like I've been limping around ever since then, which hasn't been great. And, having to like ice my knee and just kind of try my best to take care of it, but still not let it stop me from moving around. But when I come back home, I'm going to go see the doctor and get it checked out.
So your career as a WNBA star is in jeopardy in addition to being 4'9". This is potentially not working in your favor. I also fell down, believe it or not. I like how that's like, my low light is that I fell down. Look at this giant.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I fell down. Also slippery. On a slippery subway stair, and my arm just crashed into the railing. Like bone into metal. And I've had this for like close to 2 weeks now. And it's like, it was the better part of my whole forearm for a while. So yeah.
Oh.
My highlight. So I am, our next Super Kitten Krysta 64 video is going to be gaming in Korea. I went solo, not undercover, but I went to these places in search of the gaming culture in Korea, and I definitely found it. And I found something that was really surprising to me, shocking to me. I did not expect to find it. I completely out of the blue stumbled on it. It's Nintendo related, and like it surpassed some of the equivalents in the US and other places that I have been, and I was really surprised by that. So that's a little tease for that video. When's that video coming out?
I haven't even seen it yet.
I don't know.
You sent me all the clips to edit, but I haven't done it yet.
I sent you all the hard work to edit, yes.
I can't wait to see it, though. Now I'm so curious to edit. I'm going to edit on the plane on the way home.
There we go.
From Asia. So it's perfect.
Yeah.
But wow, that's so cool.
What a pleasant surprise.
What a pleasant surprise indeed. And then my highlight is definitely all the delicious food in Vietnam.
I was about to say that it can't be food related unless it's a low light. Because it's so like, yeah, easy. We know. But what else?
So good. I also I was really surprised by Ninh Binh, which is a place in Vietnam that I hadn't been to yet. This is my second time there. So a lot of the cities I have visited before, but this was a city that I haven't visited yet. And it was just the beauty, the nature, the really cool landscape was absolutely incredible and very unexpected in the best way. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Wow.
Well, do hurry back and safe travels. And yeah, thanks to everybody who enjoyed those last couple episodes that we've recorded in advance. Lots of great comments on those. But yes, we are back, and we're going to be back in the studio next week.
Yes, exactly.
One other little quick thing at the top that if people are planning to attend PAX West, if they would like an early tip about something cool to do, we'll be doing a panel.
Yay!
It should become an annual tradition. Kit and Krysta podcast live. We are coming to PAX in Seattle again. We have a confirmed time and date, which is Friday, August 30th at 1 p.m.
Yeah.
So if you're going to be there, we hope you come by, enjoy
say hi to us.
The live podcast, stick around and say hi.
Yes,
they never tell us if these are going to be streamed or not. But the last couple have been streamed, and those are all on like the PAX channel. So I would say just keep an eye on those.
Yes.
If you want to watch it, we will release it somehow after the fact on our channels. Right. But yes, it is happening. What we're going to discuss, we don't know yet.
TBD.
That requires you to return to the United States for a discussion to happen, but that's exciting.
Yes, I'm excited. I'm no longer nervous about these panels. I used to be very nervous. Oh.
We're in the biggest room ever. The biggest theater ever.
No, we're not.
You don't know that. You don't know
I do know that. I do know that.
It was a pretty big room last year. I don't know. See? I bet I can work you up. I can get you scared real good.
Gas me up. Make me nervous.
All right. Let's get into. So we have such a news backlog to go through because we have not been, doing weekly news coverage. So we have. I think we have 6 news stories here, and 4 of them are real juicy Nintendo stories. But we want to start with this stuff about Switch 2 stock and scalping. Yeah. So this came up in a recent shareholder meeting where Mr. Furukawa, who's obviously the president of Nintendo, was talking about this very topic. And I'm just going to read exactly what he said, and we can go from there. As a countermeasure against resale, we believe the most important thing is to produce a sufficient number to meet customer demand, and this idea has not changed since last year, Furukawa said. In addition to this, we are considering whether there are any other measures that can be taken to the extent allowed by laws and regulations, taking into account the circumstances of each region. Although we weren't able to produce sufficient quantities of Nintendo Switch hardware last year and the year before due to a shortage of semiconductor components, the situation has now been resolved. At this time, we do not believe the shortage of components will have a significant impact on the production of the successor model. So there's like a lot of, it's a short statement, but there's a lot there. It's like one part, how much they're making, one part acknowledgement
what they're doing
of the scalper problem, and then also this acknowledgement of, those component problems that we had, coming out of the pandemic for a long time, like those are solved. Like don't worry about those. Those were definitely a real thing that were causing.
And it wasn't really like limited to Nintendo either. A lot of
everybody
companies that produce these things had the same issues with the semiconductor shortages. So
absolutely,
good to know that it's solved.
Yeah. So again, like we're some number of months out before this thing even gets announced, even more before it comes out. What do you make of them bringing this up and speaking in some degree of detail about it now?
Well, I do think that they are taking it very seriously. I think that they really dislike the idea of scalpers. Nintendo, when we were there, they would be very focused on the just that core thing of like wanting to bring their systems to someone that actually wants to play it. They're not trying to like game it so that they have short stock on purpose. It's not some sort of marketing ploy to not have enough stock. Like, and also with scalpers, like that's something that they have actively said and publicly said, and also when we were there was an internal thing as well. Like they really hate them, and they don't like the fact that it's taking away from the customers, their customers' ability to get these and enjoy the product. And so I do think they're taking it very seriously, and that they are doing everything possible to help address the situation. And it's good that they're looking ahead too. They're getting ahead of it. So hopefully when the time comes, there will be some measures in place to help it not happen.
So I think it's great that they're acknowledging this and talking about it. And I actually don't think this is the first time. I feel like some months ago, there was another mention of like, we're going to make a lot of these.
Right.
And I think that's great, but I can only take so much comfort in these comments because I don't know. So again, let's go like kind of piece by piece. So in terms of the stock, I feel like it's one of those things like where the demand can shift based on the expectation of being able to get one. So like if you hear that, it's just human nature. If you hear a thing is hard to get, a lot of people are going to be like, all right, I can't get it. I'm going to wait. Whereas if you say, hey, there's so many of these, you can get one, you can definitely get one, then more people are going to be incentivized to feel like, oh yeah, I should try and get one. I can get one. And, there's all the stuff that happened in the pandemic that, you can study like from a social standpoint of like, did those people really want those PlayStation 5s, or were they just looking, for something to do, or they get swept away in the FOMO or whatever it is. But I don't know if we know this is going to be a high demand item, like really, really high coming off of the original Switch. So I feel like unless they're making like way more than they ever had at launch for a system, it's still going to be really hard to find because there's just inherently high demand. And if they keep talking about this of like, oh, we're taking these steps, we're taking these measures, there's going to be a lot, more people are going to come out and want to get one. So it's like there's just that many more people competing to get them. And yeah, there's more, but is it really going to feel that different?
You are just so scared.
I'm terrified.
I don't know why. Like, I feel like it's going to be all right. Like, I don't know why you're so... I mean, you got
Says the person who's been handed every piece of Nintendo hardware by the company for the last 15 years.
Okay, that's true. But before then, I had to get my own Wii, okay?
And how did that go?
I mean, I got it eventually. Like 2 weeks after launch. Yeah. 2 weeks out. It's not that big of a deal. It's not like I waited years for it.
We have a great thing happening, which is the Nintendo San Francisco store is opening.
Oh, yeah.
And we know that those stores get regular shipments of hardware, unlike a lot of stores.
I live 15 minutes walking from there.
So
it'll be fine.
Look, but looking beyond ourselves, just looking at normal people who want to get this thing, like, is the situation going to be actually different? I don't know. It's like maybe this is a bad analogy, but I think of some times when we were at Nintendo when we were really busy, and it's like, oh well, we have this open position. Once we hire so and so in this position, the work will just disperse and everybody will feel the relief. Did that ever really happen? No. It's like there was just more work that rose up. It's like, oh, well, now you can do more. It feels like that's the same situation. It's like you make more stock, and there's more people coming at it. So I give them a lot of credit for proactively thinking about this, for trying. I think they're great.
Going to try.
I think that's great. I just don't know that it's going to be any different.
I think they're good. At least they're trying. At least they're being proactive. Yeah. I do think it's going to help to some degree. Maybe not in the massive degree that people want, but it's not gonna be worse. So at least it's going to be slightly better at best, or at least it's going to be slightly better. At best, it will be a lot better. You know what I mean? Like but you're moving in the positive direction. You're not going down. It's not like they're saying like, oh, we definitely won't have enough. Oh no, the semiconductors we're not making the chips. It's not the other way,
Yeah.
So at least that.
Okay, well now let's talk about the scalpers, because this is kind of a related topic.
Yeah.
And this is where their track record is not great. Because, there really is this kind of like church and state separation between things Nintendo can do and are within Nintendo's power, and things retailers can do.
Yeah.
And things that have to be done by a retailer that Nintendo cannot dictate that they have to do as part of being able to sell this. And there's like laws in place, at least in this.
Yeah, they even mentioned
in the United States,
laws.
Right?
Yeah.
I feel like we got some comments from people that are in Europe. They're like, yeah, we're starting to see more and more protections in Europe against this sort of thing, and that's great.
Yeah.
For us, though, there's just not a good track record, and in our history of working at Nintendo, we often elevated this issue of, hey, there's a lot of frustration around fans who want to get a thing, but based on the way we're doing pre-orders, like, just don't have a fair shot. And this happened with Amiibo. This happened with the Mini, like the NES Mini, specifically with some other kind of like, a bit more specialty items. But, pre-orders would go live at random times of day. They would not be pre-communicated. And the people who were, and often, and it was like small increments of stock. It's not like, all right, everything's going live. It's like, oh, we're doing like, 5% of our stock here. And that would always happen. And the people who benefit this are in a lot of ways, these scalpers who, have ways of jumping on these things immediately when they go up. And, with the Switch 2, like we said, being such a hot commodity, that's going to be high on their list of like, let's get as many of these as we can.
Yeah. Yeah, the scalper situation frustrated Nintendo, though. They hated the idea of scalpers taking something away from a potential customer. And, from their perspective, it's like, we want to get people in the door into the Nintendo ecosystem, and an inability for them to do that because a scalper has taken that product from them is unacceptable to us. But a lot of those situations are outside of their direct control, which they also dislike. Regions are different. They have different rules. Obviously, retailers, especially in the US, was just like the wild west of what you can do to, regulate a retailer and how they can sell your product is pretty much like non-existent in the US.
Yeah, you can't tell them what to do.
You can't. You give them their allocation of product. They can do whatever they want with it, which is the problem. And nothing Nintendo can do will solve that problem. So that piece of it is going to be still hard, I think, but it is something that Nintendo really, really hates. So I do think they will be looking into like what laws are going to be in their favor to help with the situation, to give them some semblance of control that they don't have right now.
And with retailers and frankly, even with some people who work in sales, at Nintendo or other companies, what is their job? To sell the thing. So right. If the thing sells, they're not as concerned with who it got sold to. It's like, hey, I did my job. I sold the thing.
Right. Yeah.
I do think this is a big opportunity for some retailer to really take the reins and recognize this problem and say, like, yeah, we are going to try and become like the first retailer that really tries to eliminate scalping as a big problem. That feels like a big point of innovation in retail. As retail becomes this, increasingly like weird place, yeah. at least in this country. In the US, I'm a bit surprised nobody's jumped up to do that. I also wonder, what will Nintendo do on, Nintendo.com, where they have this online store now? Like,
how much allocation do they give themselves?
And if you have, could they come up with some system where it's like, all right, if you've got the Nintendo account, or if you have, the NSO deluxe tier, you get first crack at this. Like, there's a lot of things that they could do. Again, forget the retailers. Now you are the retailer. So you have control over that. And you have control. So that's where we'll see how strongly they feel about this in whatever ways they choose to sell this that way. I would feel so much better if they had something like that, because at least that's the thing that's frustrating, is you often don't feel like you have a fair chance. Yeah. Because again, the thing went live at 2 a.m. It wasn't pre-communicated, and they had like 10 of them. Oh well.
And then it was gone when you
I never had a chance then anyway. Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. But I do think that they are taking it seriously, though. I do think they really dislike this whole situation with scalpers. And, I feel like retailers, especially with Nintendo products, like they know that how lucrative and how popular Nintendo products are. It is within their, benefit to have a good relationship with Nintendo. So I do think they are going to, work with Nintendo, hopefully, to alleviate some of the situation. Like, I think those conversations are happening. Because it is something that is important to Nintendo, and I think that they are trying. So what can they do? I don't know, like what's possible, but I think at least they're talking about it, and that's better than before when it was like something that took them by surprise, and then, they didn't have a way to like really find solutions for it. So.
Okay. We asked our Patreon subscribers for their thoughts on this. We ran a poll. The question was, what do you think it'll actually be like trying to get a Switch 2 when it finally releases, based on what Nintendo said? 13% of people said, I trust Nintendo and feel like it will be easy to get a console at launch. 64% said it doesn't matter. It's going to be a challenge no matter what Nintendo does. 16% says it depends on the launch details, like system pricing and launch games. And 6% said, I'm probably not getting one at launch, so it doesn't matter for me.
Oh.
I was pretty surprised at the result here.
Wow. Me too.
I think a lot of people are in kind of my boat of like, this is just a bad way of doing things all around, and nobody seems to want to step up and create change. So we kind of just have to ride this out.
Yeah. I feel bad that you guys feel bad. I feel okay.
Let me tell you, you're going to be on your own getting your system, it sounds like.
I don't know. I feel okay about this.
Mario's not just going to hand you one this time.
I just feel like it's going to be all right. I think we need to be more positive. We need to be more positive about this.
You're just going to stroll into this Target and say, give me my Switch 2, buddy. Thanks.
I'm going to walk into the Nintendo San Francisco store and tell them to give me one.
Better be open by then, is all I have to say.
Yeah,
Better
hopefully.
be open. Yeah. Let's see what some people had to say. Zroid said, this could genuinely be Nintendo's hottest product launch in their entire company history. The only thing I could see in the same conversation is Wii, and that was bolstered by tremendous mainstream media coverage that we don't normally see for video games. All I can say is good luck to Furukawa and company.
Oh.
And to us.
Ominous.
And to us.
Ominous.
Aaron Hash, final boss. Aaron Hash says, good on Nintendo for at least wanting to put a plan in place. However, the retailers need to have their own plans in place. At least some sort of plan that will work along with Nintendo's. I know some stores could care less about something like this, but we've also seen others do their best to prevent this issue. Nintendo can do everything they possibly can, but it'll come down to if retailers care more about customer satisfaction or just a couple bots giving quick and easy sales numbers. Very true.
I'm going to make my own bot. That's how
the Krysta bot?
I'll become a scalper. No, just kidding.
it's a robot that falls down.
Him.
That's what it is.
That will show him.
It's a robot with a bad knee. Elfsong713 says, I hope I don't have to do the complicated dance of signing up for alerts, following certain YouTubers to know when there are drops, coming out in front of Best Buy, camping out in front of Best Buy, and waiting and hoping and praying online queues the way I had to for Switch and the PS5. It's good to know that Nintendo is considering the problem, but we shall see if it will be enough. I don't necessarily need a console day one, but I don't want to wait months or years for it.
Yeah, I don't really need a day one, but...
I think you do. I think you and I need one day one.
One of us will get it.
I think we really do. You're really sounding like somebody who's been on vacation for 3 weeks right now. Get back.
Great.
Get back here.
It's gonna be fine. Don't worry, people. It's gonna be fine.
All right. Let's move on to our next big story. Who is Emio? The world wants to know.
Or Emio? How do you pronounce it? No one knows
we have very little to go on here. So this happened late last week. A very short teaser was dropped on Nintendo's YouTube channel. Copy simply read, who is Emio? Had a guy with a bag over his head looking real spooky, scary.
Spooky.
And it was about 15 seconds long. And that's about it. This video was also age restricted.
Yes.
And it had the trappings of a first-party Nintendo game.
Yes.
Because when I first heard about this, that was my thought of like, all right, they're helping tease some third-party horror game, big deal.
Right.
But it does seem to be a first-party game, and my other thought was, okay, are we going to get like part 2 of this tomorrow with some proper reveal trailer or something else?
But nothing has happened yet.
As of now, as of recording this, nothing.
It's been a week, so nothing has happened.
What was your reaction to this?
Yeah, I was just like confused by it at first because I also thought that it was some kind of third-party studio that is versed in like horror games doing some sort of teaser on the Nintendo channel. But I was surprised that first-party Nintendo is making, potentially a more mature horror game because that's so outside of their usual thing. So yeah, it was pretty interesting once you kind of realize that it's a lot more than just a third party horror game. It also is unusual that they do teases at all, and that is something that Nintendo traditionally stays away from because they do want to manage people's expectations, and the idea of a teaser is like the complete opposite of that, where you're getting people all worked up to talk about it. But my expectations for this are extremely low. Like, I don't think it's going to be like that exciting to be quite honest. Like, I think it's just going to be some like spirit camera type game, and that's it. I don't think it's going to be some like
Fatal Frame, new Fatal Frame.
No. Maybe
I'm also waiting to see more before I have a real reaction to this.
Yeah.
I mean, some of the reactions that I have seen, like I'm surprised at how much people have really jumped on this based on the limited information and limited just anything that we've seen.
Yeah.
Like, there have been memes aplenty, like real like speculation, like people really like trying to dig into this and figure it out. And I do wonder, like, is this approach of teasing it going to work for them? Because yeah, that's always the concern, is like, you know, people in a good natured way, like their excitement they'll get carried away. Yeah. And then when they see the actual thing, like there's no way that it can meet those expectations. So, I mean, a week later, that's a long time. And I think, you know, this has mostly run its course, but some of the stuff that I was seeing I was getting a little bit worried. I was like, I hope these people aren't crushed if this is not, you know, the next coming or the next great action horror game, because it might not be.
Exactly. Yeah. I just don't think it's going to be what people are expecting. Because they basically, everybody, when you do a teaser, they jump to like the furthest possible conclusion for it. Like, oh my gosh, this is going to be this thing that I've been waiting for like 30 years, you know? They jump to that conclusion, but I don't think it's going to be. And I honestly think it's going to kind of suck. So...
Yeah, I mean, it may be a first-party game, but it's most likely done by an outside studio, because that seems to be who's making everything first-party for Nintendo right now. So, like, that seemed to be a lot of the excitement of, like, oh my gosh, first-party Nintendo is making a horror game. And that doesn't mean they can't make a good game, but, you know, it's not exactly the same as, you know, one of those great internal teams or developers, like, really leading a big effort here. I imagine they probably saw some opportunity in the market for a game like this at this time. Yeah. Of the life cycle. So, you know, that probably has a good reason for existing. But yeah, as far as like some of the reactions to it, I am going to wait and see. I need to see more than a guy with a bag on his head. Exactly. Before I go buck wild.
Exactly. Also, I'm too scared to play it anyway, so. There's also that.
What if it's not scary at all? What if he's got a big smile on his face? What if he's happy?
What if he takes the bag off and it's just you with a mustache?
Now that's the true terror right there. All right, we got to go on to the next story here. The ESRB description for Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom has come out, and it mentions playing as Link. So again, I will just read what the ESRB has posted in this description. From a 3/4 overhead perspective, players explore various environments while fighting stylized enemies. As Link, players use a sword and arrows to defeat enemies. Zelda can use a magic wand to summon creatures for battle. Some enemies can be defeated by setting on fire. Other creatures dissolve into mist. Battle sequences are somewhat frenetic, with several enemies attacking/fighting at once. So that's what we have to go on. Were you surprised that Link was mentioned here?
No.
What do you foresee Link's role in this game to be?
I think it's going to be a switchy back and forth kind of thing. Like
How
some
much?
Parts of the I kind of think it might be 50-50, honestly.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh no.
Why is that? Oh no.
Well, that feels like a bit of a real switcheroo based on what we have seen. Of like, yeah, it's all Zelda. I would be surprised if it was 50-50. That would feel like you kind of misrepresented what this game is.
Really?
I have a different feeling. I feel like maybe at the very beginning of the game, you play as Link. Something happens to Link. He falls into the whatever. And then you take over as Zelda. And maybe at the very end, there's some like boss battle that involves switching between the two of them to beat the boss or something like that. But I feel like, 95% of the game is going to be Zelda like they've been showing.
I kind of feel like it might be like a God of War, Atreus,
oh my God,
Kratos
and that worked great.
Where
people love those.
You are surprised by the amount of time you spend with Atreus, and you're going to be surprised at the amount of time you spend with Link. I kind of feel like Link has something to do when he falls into the hole. Like maybe there's like an alternate universe that you have to do something to help. Like it's linked in some way. No pun intended. But like he falls into the hole, and then like he's in this other place and doing stuff. and then whatever he's doing affects what Zelda has to do too. So it's like connected somehow.
Okay.
It could be fun.
I think people are not going to be happy if that's what it is,
Oh.
and I don't think I'll be happy if that's what it is. To be
Really?
quite honest, I don't need
right.
Link in this game. I don't need
Oh.
that. No, I don't.
I think both of them together are great.
Yeah, but I think they have.
Why is that bad?
I think they've built something interesting of how you play as Zelda here, and I like the idea of it being more open ended, and I'm excited to get really deep into that. So it's not like that I dislike, all the Zelda games where you play as Link, but it seemed like this was being positioned as something other than that.
Oh.
So maybe that's a switcheroo that not everybody would like.
Well, I mean, it might not be accurate, my prediction of
nobody knows.
So,
yeah, we only have this to go on. I saw people, saying the same thing as you of like, oh my gosh, it's going to be 50-50, and there was a wide range. And in my mind, I was like, let's let cooler heads prevail. What does this really probably mean? They have to say that you're using a sword if this is the ESRB. People need to know for the cartoon violence for the E10 rating.
10
so plus. That's an interesting feeling by you there.
Yeah, but I think it could be, if they do it well, it could be really fun. Like, I don't doubt the gameplay will be not fun because you're playing more as Link than maybe. I don't know. I never thought that Link was going to be absent from this game. Like, even from the first time I saw this game. Yes, they focused on the Zelda puzzle fighting elements, but I thought for sure that Link was going to have some role in this game that was going to be significant. So, I don't know.
I'm trying to think, what is the percentage of Link in this game that would not bother me?
30%?
It's less than that.
20%?
20 maybe? Let's say 20.
Okay.
If it's more than 20% Link, I'm going to be kind of annoyed.
You're going to be really tired of making those old beds.
You're
going to wish for a sword when you have made your 14.
Can't I conjure a sword?
No.
Or something cooler than a sword?
You can conjure an old bed or an older
She's going
bed.
to conjure a gun. It's like that crab game where it's like, give the crab a gun. Zelda's going to get a gun.
No.
Yeah.
It's either an old bed or an oldest bed. That's what you're getting.
All right. Okay. Interesting. Very interesting takes you're having today. Again, please come back. Hurry back quickly. Our last Nintendo story from the big news here
I'm so excited
is that these 3 Starfy games have come to NSO. These are Game Boy Advance games, so they're on the more... I always forget what the name of this tier is. What is it? The deluxe tier? What is the name of this
tier?
Is that it? Okay.
Know. Maybe.
The high roller tier.
The expensive one.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you get, and these are games that were previously only released in Japan. Densetsu no Starfy 1, 2, and 3. And the catch, though, is that these are unlocalized. Only in Japanese.
They're in Japanese, but who cares? It's like a platformer. Whatever.
Well,
you don't really need it.
You've really been disconnected because some people are not happy about this.
Well, I mean, you don't have to play it.
But what if you want to? I don't know. I don't know Japanese. Do you?
Google Translate.
Hold up my phone to the Switch while I play with the Translate app. What am I doing?
You only need to translate 2 things. Who cares? You're playing a platformer. You can run to the right. I think you're good.
I also land on the side of this is a good thing. I'm not against this at all. If the decision was, all right, you can
not
have
at
it
all
unlocalized or not at all, I'll obviously take it unlocalized. And I agree with a game like this, it's not as big a deal.
Yeah, there's no story or something.
I did go into some of these games just to check it out, and there's a couple lines of dialogue at the beginning. It's like, all right, I guess I'm not getting that.
Who cares?
And then from there on, the rest of the game is pretty self-explanatory.
Yeah,
I do think they should have done, and they being Nintendo, a teeny bit more to get people over that hump, because I think there's some people who are going to boot these up and see that title screen in Japanese and freak out and be like, oh no. What is this? I'm not doing this.
Why?
Because they don't speak Japanese.
But you know what type of game this is. If it was this,
what if you don't? You're like, oh, there's there's something new for you to play. Here we go. Okay, I'm excited for this.
What's wrong with these people? That's my conclusion. What is wrong with all of you?
Again,
that think you're all worked up over the Emio, whatever. You can't play as Link. You don't want to play the Starfy. That's a 2D platformer that has like a tiny bit of Japanese. Get over yourselves.
Okay. I guess you're going to be staying overseas for the foreseeable future because they're not going to let you back in with these takes. The customs agent is going to hear yours. I heard you on that podcast, ma'am. You need to go back.
The customs agent is going to be like, I can't play Starfy because it has a text box of Japanese. Oh no.
But don't you? I mean, I do think they could have done like a couple tweets of like, hey, this is the story. If you're interested, here's the basic storyline.
I'm a starfish. I live under the sea.
Or like, here's the basic moves. Like that would have been a nice thing for them to do. And from what I've seen, like I looked at the stuff, they've done nothing.
Because they don't care. And neither should you.
It would have been easy. So there have been five Starfy games so far. The only one is the one that we worked on, the Nintendo DS game, which is a lot of fun.
It's very good.
So this is the, first time that these games are getting out of Japan. So yeah, I think that's a good thing. I think anything they can put on those NSO services, like I'm in favor of. Like I will do the work to overcome something like this, but I just wonder like how many people are gonna want to do that or not.
For them.
I don't know.
It's just not a priority for them. It may never be. So it's one of those things you have to come to terms with. But I'd much rather have them than not. So
yeah. All right, I look forward to your 100% streams of Densetsu no Starfy 1, 2, and 3.
Let's go!
Yeah. With your phone held up high. All right, that's all the big Nintendo stories that happened over the last 2 weeks.
Whew.
Thank goodness there was not some like major breaking news.
No. It was actually good. A good time for us
deliver
to be on vacation.
International Krysta to the world.
Get over yourselves.
I don't know
That's
if
international
I don't know if people can take it. There was some news about Palworld as well. And a little bit in the vein of maybe imitating things that Nintendo has done with Pokemon, they have basically set up the Palworld company. Like Nintendo has the Pokemon company. So they have done I don't know if this is a joint venture or what exactly it is, but they have teamed up with Sony Music Entertainment to create Palworld Entertainment Inc. And the purpose of this is, quote, accelerating the multifaceted global development of Palworld and its further expansion.
Wow.
Yes. So I don't know enough about Sony's corporate structure, but why Sony Music Entertainment is a question I have. Why not something that's
like movies?
Music, like entertainment, not Sony Pictures.
Oh, okay.
I mean, Sony's got a lot going on, but maybe it doesn't matter. Yeah. I saw that the person who is heading this up is the CEO of Pocket Pair, who's the developer of Palworld. So they're obviously, still extremely involved. Palworld had that update that came out recently, seems to not have set the world on fire again. Like people are still playing it, but obviously not at the rate that they were when it first came out.
It fell off pretty fast.
Does Palworld have a future that deserves this, big bold step?
I feel like they need to solve the problem of how to keep their brand like top of mind for people after the initial like trendiness has worn off. Like they should really focus on brand building and like gaining a very strong audience of people that play all the time versus some kind of like entertainment expansion, which feels early and also unnecessary. So
with the partner being Sony, I imagine they're building up to some big release on PlayStation, and maybe that is when they make their next big push
update. Yeah,
I forget. This game came out pretty early in the year. It was like January, February.
Yeah.
So maybe they have a 1-year exclusive with Microsoft. So maybe January 2025 we get full Palworld 1.0 launch with all this new content, all this new stuff on the PS5, alongside whatever transmedia activations they have to throw out there. I could see that happening. And but I think Sony could be a good advisor to them. They certainly know what they're doing. They're a big company. They can get stuff done.
Yeah,
So
that's true.
I still really like Palworld. I think it's cool. Haven't had a chance to go back to it and check out the new update, but I'm rooting for them.
Yeah, I like Palworld too. I played a ton of it when it came out, but I did fall off pretty quickly. Like, it was like a steep fall off.
But you played a lot before the fall off.
I played a lot.
You were addicted.
Like, I was very addicted. I loved it. And I still want to play more of it, but I'm not, as someone that was like deeply obsessed with it when it was first coming out, the updates have not given me a reason to go back. So I would love for them to give me a reason to go back, But
okay.
I like Palworld a lot, and I want them to be successful. So yeah.
Our last big news story is something that I am still trying to make sense of, and it is this reshuffling that has been happening with Xbox GamePass. And I'm not going to try and summarize all of the changes, but in a nutshell, the price is going up. That's one big thing. And also there are now tiers where you don't get the big games day one. Right. And I hesitate to say all these details because it is extremely confusing. And there's a chart that I've included here. And this is not a chart that Microsoft put out. This is something that a fan made.
Oh.
And even
that is confusing.
Even this is incredibly confusing. So you've got 4 different tiers and there's like 8 different levels of differentiators. Like, I don't know. That's just a lot to keep track of. And, I see people saying like, yeah, the value of this becomes more and more questionable. Mm-hmm. If you're pushing more people away from the day one releases, then kind of what's the point? We're both Game Pass subscribers. Does this concern you?
Well, I don't like the fact that it's getting more confusing, but I did kind of see this coming because we were always talking about like, how are they recouping the losses from Game Pass? Because obviously that is not, a positive profit mark. Like they're not getting like profit from this. The other thing that is a little bit disappointing is that, we went to the Xbox showcase. It was so great. They were pushing all these things that were like day one on Game Pass. Finally, I kind of got that sense that like, yes, they're going to make Game Pass a thing. Look at all these great, like AAA Microsoft, games, Xbox games coming to Game Pass day one. Like that does feel like their big, product uniqueness. And something that they're finally like giving us the message of like, we think this is important. We want you guys to think this is important too. And then they come out with something like this, which is confusing. So now it's like, well, not everything is day one on Xbox Game Pass. And you have all these different tiers and what do they all mean? Which tier is right for me? So once again, you're back to I'm getting confused with what your strategy for Game Pass is. So that's a little unfortunate, like having this come off of like a great summer for Xbox,
It is expensive now, but I do still think the value is there. If, do the math of, how many games does this add up to me buying a year? And if I go over that number, then it becomes a good value. So I do still think for people who are playing pretty actively that the value is still there. I think a question, to ask is like, well, why do all this before this Call of Duty launch? Like, don't you want to build up and make that this huge thing, right, and not rock the boat until then and just, ride whatever, good feelings you have coming out of your press conference.
Right.
And
exactly.
I keep going back to this feeling that I have that Phil Spencer got this ultimatum from up top. It's like, we will do this deal, but you need to get the financials of your organization in order for us to do this. And I think this is part of whatever he promised for this. Like, yes, we will raise the price of Game Pass. And this is what's happening to literally every subscription service and media these days. So that's not shocking.
Right.
And I feel like, it was something that they had to do beforehand so that they could get that extra value out of people before Call of Duty came out versus people playing it. And, some people are going to drop off, some people are going to keep playing, but this way you maximize the value of all those people who are getting Call of Duty on day one. I cannot shake that feeling that he made some, boardroom meeting room with all the, the shadowy heads of Microsoft. Like, yes, I promise I will do this if this deal goes through.
Yeah, I can see that for sure. And I think he's under a lot of pressure because it is one of those things where you're part of a larger organization that is not as tuned into the games industry, and you have to like pick your battles to get what you want. So yeah, I can totally see that being part of it as well. But unfortunate timing. I wish you could have convinced them to, to like figure out a better way to roll this out. Because they are coming off of such a strong announcement season. Like, I hate to see them lose any momentum because people are confused or unhappy with this new structure. But
yeah,
Game Pass definitely still a good value, and I will be keeping my Game Pass and upgrading. I mean, I'll be getting the Ultimate Game Pass Ultimate. So
that is our mega news update for some number of days, weeks.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's actually not bad. It was good to catch up on all that. And you're right. It was like kind of a nice relief that we were just past the summer announcement season before we left on vacation. And so the news has been a little bit slower. So it's been perfect.
Yeah. Let's get into the next big thing for this episode, which is our story time on Nintendo World Championships 2015. And again, the Nintendo World Championships NES editions coming out this week.
Yeah.
I've strangely come around on that game. I cannot explain how or why this happened.
Worked.
But I'm kind of excited for that now. You know what? So in Korea, I saw so much advertising for that, like all over the place. And that really surprised me.
Wow.
I always thought this game was like, oh, this is probably some like NOA initiative. Like, is this even going to release in other territories? But I saw it everywhere. And I've been seeing tweets from people who live in Japan of like, oh, this is on the subway, this is in this store. It's like, this seems to be like a global, like big initiative to push this game. So that's maybe giving me a bit more confidence of like, maybe this is cool. I don't know. And then like, I am very much like, the demographic that like you grew up with Nintendo Power, like, lived through all these Nintendo World Championships. So I don't think it's going to be like a 10 out of 10 game, but I want to give it a try. And I think you and I should do something with it too. So we'll figure that out when you get back.
Yeah, I'm definitely like, I was going to play this game regardless because it looked cool. But I mean, I didn't have like the highest expectations for it. I'm pretty
sure we just did an episode that came out last week where you said you were not.
Really?
Yeah.
No, I said I was going to play
so
it.
I guess you could say you're very excited for me to buy it and for you to play that version.
Exactly. I am. I'm going to play it, but I'll play yours. Anyways.
So 2015, yes. So we were there for this. We were involved in this. And this was, it's so funny that we were just talking about E3 2014 and how successful that was and how over time that has felt like a really big moment for the company. And this was obviously the follow-up to E3 2014. It was just a year later. And this was a year after introducing all of this live programming with Treehouse Live, which was such a huge hit, with the Smash Invitational, which was this huge, complex stage event that went really well and was also streamed and was really positive. So everybody was just feeling really positive and motivated to keep innovating in this space of like digital programming and streamed content out to the quote home audience, as we called it.
Right.
So I think as people, continued to think and brainstorm about what we could do, this was a pretty logical idea, I think. Like, I don't think anybody was like, oh, why would you do that? Like, it was a pretty cool idea at the time.
It was a cool idea and was a logical next step. And the other thing that was sort of at the core of this that kind of sold it into everyone to agree that this was a cool idea was that there are a lot of, quote, esports or competitive gaming events out there. But we were going to try really hard to do this like the unique Nintendo way. And whenever, there is kind of a initiative or idea around like, let's do something that already exists in the world. finding that unique Nintendo angle was really important, and because the unique Nintendo angle was so obvious and so just like natural, I think people were like on board right away and were pretty excited about doing something like that, like sort of an esports kind of thing, but with a unique Nintendo twist to it.
Yeah, that's a good point, because with Smash, like, the company was taking more of an interest in competitive gaming and trying to see what it could do in Smash, but just more broadly as esports was coming up as a thing. Like that's a very good point. But yeah, like this Nintendo World Championships type event had not been done since 1990, so 25 years later, and you're on this cool anniversary.
Yeah.
There's just the inherent drama of the competition makes for great programming, and you can promote whatever games you want. Like, you can go into the deep history of Nintendo and pick something cool that gives people the nostalgia angle. You can call your number with the new games and put those at the forefront and let people see that those are cool. So the format has a lot going for it.
Right.
So it got first revealed in this announcement video with Reggie, which is, dare I say, now quite iconic.
Yeah, iconic.
And it wasn't just for Nintendo World Championship. It was basically revealing all of Nintendo's plans
for E3
for that E3.
Yeah.
And, it featured Reggie firing Bill, which was iconic, doing training for the Nintendo World Championships. And it was just like watching everything for this, I was like, man, this really was that era.
This will never happen again.
This will never be happening again.
This will never happen again. And like, it was so cool, like shooting that we were part of the shoot that took place in the Redmond offices for this, and kind of the scripting and all of the different like little gaffes and laughs. Like that was part of this core team that we were on that developed a lot of this stuff. And it is such like a product of the time, because it was Nintendo's feeling at the time to be very like innovative and kind of out there. They're so different from that now. It's hard to even look back and understand, like, and even just like wrap your head around how this actually happened. And obviously like Reggie's not there anymore, so this will never happen again. But it just feels like a very special time and place for Nintendo as a company that might never ever be replicated again in the future. So it's
a fun video also because a lot of the sort of bit players in it are people like that we worked with. Like yeah. Like one of the people is like John Yeckley, who ended up working for both of us. Katie Cornish, who she got like lasered by Fizamec. But, also previously, she was the head of social at the time.
Right. At E3 that year, she recreated that scene by rubbing. She had like black eyeshadow. She rubbed it all over her face so that she looked like burnt. And we took other photos for her and Reggie with the sunglasses on. So yeah, I mean, there's so many just like zany moments that if you, I can only imagine, trying to suggest something like this to Nintendo right now, and how quickly they would just like put you down and say like absolutely not,
And the person who was really like the project lead on this was Eric Peterson, who was of Treehouse and was previously of the localization team, was a good friend of ours. And he's since moved on from Nintendo, and it's amazing like how deeply involved he was of every single aspect of this, down to like almost like he wasn't the official host, but he was very involved on stage, and just like every minute detail he had to have down and figured out.
But he was so good at it, though.
Yes.
He was like the best at it, and then he left. It was very different after that.
He said, well, that's that.
Yeah. Yeah, then he was like, "I'm out," and I was like, "Why?"
Yeah,
it's like a dream team, really, of people that were working on this. That a lot of them are no longer at Nintendo, unfortunately.
Yeah,
so there's that. Yeah.
So there was that announcement, and there was just this burst of excitement over, like, oh my gosh, looks like Nintendo's setting up to have a great E3, really building upon last year, which was the intended result. But kind of after that video went out, like that's when we really got brought in to help with kind of the more like communications-y parts of it. Like we started hearing like, we don't really have a plan for sharing the rest of the details of this thing. And we actually have a lot that we need to get out there in about a month's time or so. So we really need some help to get us from now to actually getting us to E3 when this thing is going to happen.
Right.
And one of the first things that we got brought in to work on was this follow-up video that they did, which was starring Eric and Bill. And I don't know if Bill's doing some sort of a character in this one. It's
weird, yeah.
Some of his delivery is a little strange, I found.
He's very strange. It was like he was acting, but I don't know why he would be.
Right.
Yeah.
But they had a lot to get through there. So they introduced that the host was Kevin Pereira, that they would have invited players who were made up of like actual speedrunners or people who played competitively in different games, and other just kind of like general content creators. Like they had people from Smosh, for example, there.
Yeah.
And then they also shared this point about, so there's going to be 16 total competitors, and 8 of them are going to come from these Best Buy qualifiers.
Yeah.
But there were only 8 qualifying locations in the entire country. So this was a bit of a bummer news after the big, great buildup of, oh my gosh, we're doing this event. Was like, wait, there's 50 states. You have 8 locations. And the people who won those qualifiers would go to the big event, which is cool. But it was logistically hard, if not impossible, for a lot of people to actually go to these things.
Right. And the thing was, this is so early in the days of Nintendo doing any sort of competitive event. They've since really improved, the way they do qualifiers. Like all of the qualifiers are online now. They didn't have the ability to do that back then. So a physical event was sort of the only way. And just given the limitations of what, the staff could do within that time, that was the best they could do. But I think people were definitely disappointed.
Yeah, and I remember there being some discussion around Kevin Pereira at the host, because he would often host this sort of like annual sales event that the sales team would have. But and we never attended that event. But the thing that we would hear was like, he does a pretty raunchy show.
Yeah, it was like rated M.
It's fine for a bunch of salespeople, but I don't know about the Nintendo World Championships. So I remember there was some hand wringing over him as the selection, but he ended up doing a good job.
Yeah, I think eventually someone was convinced them that he was going to be like PG.
Yeah.
So
and he
that was good.
Yes.
And he was, yeah.
Another one of the things that we had to reveal beforehand, and I think this was one of the really great things that they did with this event, was integrating some of the players and winners from the 1990 event. So we had as guests of honor Jeff Hansen, who won the under 11 bracket in 1990, and Thor Ackerland, who won the 12 to 17 bracket in 1990. And so, we got hooked up with them, and we got to chat with them, and we were setting them up for interviews, and really started to tell the story of that 1990 event and kind of build the anticipation of what this new event could be. And it was so great to have their blessing and their involvement. They were really cool, and they had some amazing stories to tell. We also got all this archival material that I really wish I had saved somewhere, because some of it's amazing. I did find online this photo that I love so much of Jeff Hansen getting out of this limousine in all the Nintendo gear. And I think I was like, this is like every kid's dream come true in 1990.
Oh
like, look
God,
at this. I'm getting out. Oh my gosh. This is I love this picture so much. It's just so it's amazing.
An encapsulation of every kid's most wished for thing. A miracle would be this photo of you having this experience, Yeah. It was cool to meet them as adults too. It's like, oh my gosh, you're like, you feel like you knew them as kids because you felt like you knew who they were, and then you're like, oh my gosh, you're all grown
right
up.
And they were there, and I remember we were doing things with like interviews and stuff with them, like right up to the time that the event started.
Exactly.
And it does make me realize, like, not many people were actually at these 1990 events. So it's hard to know like what they were actually like. Like, they have taken this like mythic proportion of like, oh my God, the 1990 Nintendo World Championships was the most incredible event ever. But like, there aren't a lot of firsthand accounts of it, like
recollections. Yeah.
Right. Like, so, we can have our own perspectives on 2015, but it's extremely hard to actually compare it to 1990.
Yeah.
Because almost nobody was there.
You have to talk to the people that were there. But even their memories, I think because they were children and they are also like.
But if you're Jeff Hansen and you won, like you're going to have a very, this is like the greatest memory of your life, maybe.
Of your life?
It might be.
What hell's happened in Jeff Hansen's life? It'd be up there.
If I won, it'd be up there. Are you kidding me?
Okay. Wow.
You can stay in Vietnam for all I care. Jeez. So, yeah, we're frantically getting out all the final details about this thing, and it's like, oh my gosh, this thing coming in pretty hot, and as you know, Eric and his team are kind of like getting all the show logistics figured out. Yeah. But then we finally get there, and the event's ready to happen. So, important to note that E3. This event was like the first thing that Nintendo did.
Right. It was on like a Sunday.
It was on a Sunday when E3 actually didn't officially start until Tuesday.
Correct.
Which made it an extremely long week.
We were there for a long time.
In LA for us. I remember we also did a big pre-show event for Star Fox Zero, which was kind of the game of the show for us there. So yeah, I remember just like 2014, it was like, this is like an agonizingly long and hard E3.
We basically were in LA for like almost 2 weeks. I think.
It's crazy, right?
The before and after, yeah.
But something that became a real like hot item once we got there was like there were just these concerns over the attendance.
Yeah,
and the morning, like it was not until the afternoon, and we kept getting these notes of like, hey, there's not a lot of people in this line, and we're starting to get worried that there's not going to be a lot of fan turnout. And this was like this is a free event. Like, if you're in LA, if you want to come to this, you can just come in and check it out. And it's like, I don't know if our pre-promotion has hit that point clear enough of, do people know that this is a free event? Do people know this is happening? Do people know that they can come? Like there was a lot of panic and energy around like, what are we doing? We're going to get these last second tweets out.
They were scared because they didn't see like people camping out though for it. Days leading up to the event. It wasn't like the day of the event.
This was not a problem we had with the Smash Invitational the year before.
That's true.
That was big from the moment like people were waiting out there. Yes, it was Smash.
Yeah. Nintendo's used to like the camping out though. That's the thing.
Yeah. So it was just like, oh my gosh, like panic, turn around these social posts, these whatevers. Like whenever the people involved start tweeting themselves, like that's when you know.
That's when you know.
Concern has set in.
Yes.
If you ever see somebody from Nintendo who usually does not tweet about Nintendo stuff, saying, hey, you should check. If you see somebody saying, hey, you should check out Nintendo World Championships this weekend, you know that game is bombing.
Yeah, exactly.
But it is true. Like that, the attendance at that event was not great. There's some shots of the crowd where
it's like empty,
and it was in the Nokia Theater where Nintendo used to have its press conferences. Yeah. It was a little bit empty. I will admit, and I don't know exactly why that was, but it was. So
people didn't know what to expect from it. Smash Invitational.
25 years.
Yeah, 25 years ago, people don't know what to expect. I think.
So they, for the stream, they did a pre-show with some Treehouse people that were playing some Yoshi's Woolly World, but then they also had this amazing shadow drop of Earthbound Beginnings with this great video from Mr. Itoy. So they released that on the Virtual Console. I was like, wow, this is like a huge...
Off to a great start.
A huge drop. And then the event started, and I'll just kind of run through all the games that were included and some of the key points for that. So Splatoon, that obviously was just coming out. Original The Legend of Zelda. Now, Metroid Prime Federation Force Blast Ball. This was the first reveal of Federation Force. Yeah. But nobody knew that that's what it was. It was just called Blast Ball.
Blast Ball. And
it was just like, oh, this is a big world reveal. And everybody had to talk around it of like, oh, this looks to be some sort of a competitive shooting / soccer game. and nobody could come out and say that it was Metroid because that was getting
Metroid, right.
revealed later
Yeah,
in the
E3.
week in the digital event. Right.
Yeah.
And I think this was the first of
beginning of
many
the end.
nails in the coffin for
Yeah.
this game.
Oh, this was the beginning of the end for this game.
Oh my gosh. Why is there a competitive sport in the universe of Metroid?
Don't know.
Why is that the first thing you are showing for a new Metroid game?
Why is it that
I don't know.
you're not even saying that it's a new Metroid game at all? You're just dancing
There's so
around
many-
it at your own event?
This is one of those things where somebody
You
made
talked
this
yourselves
decision
into it.
and somebody
Yeah.
somebody decided this was a great decision. But if you start to ask any follow-up questions of why it's a great
They wouldn't
decision,
be able to
nobody
tell you.
can tell you. Literally
Right.
nobody can tell you.
Right.
So that's what that was. Wow.
And then it became a complete failure.
Yeah. We had Super Metroid, Mario Kart 8, Balloon Fight. And then we had this great exhibition of Super Smash Brothers for Wii U, Reggie versus Hungry Box. And this had been set up the year before in the Invitational. And, Reggie said, I'm terrible at Smash, but, if I ever have a chance, let's play, and I'm going to kick your butt, basically.
Yeah.
So I'm amazed that this thing actually happened. So we had this one-on-one
I know, right?
with Reggie and Hungry Box, and, there's this whole, kind of boxing-esque, promo thing where, the trash talk I thought was getting, very heated.
It was getting, out of control. I was getting uncomfortable.
I didn't like the tone of the trash talk. I was like, somebody's going to get, pushed off the stage or, put in a headlock or something. I don't know.
And it's not going to be Reggie. Reggie practiced, too. He practiced so much because he wanted to play Little Mac. And
but
so
Reggie, he was being
and Little
very...
Mac is a hard character to play, too.
Right. He was being very
really
good-natured about this.
Yeah.
Now, there is one detail about this. Reggie did terribly. Self-professed, not a big Smash player. But we do know there is one detail that may have resulted in his bad outcome, which is that he had been practicing with the Wii U Pro controller.
Right.
And if you look at the stream, you can see he is handed a GameCube controller. And there's a moment where he looks down, he's like, what? And then it cuts away. But if you know, he's probably, in his mind, he's like, oh no.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And that controller feels so different, yeah.
Right, if you have been playing Smash on a different controller and then you're handed a completely different controller, I could understand why it could go from bad to worse real fast.
Very quickly, yeah.
Yes.
But he was so good-natured about it. He was being a good sport.
Yes.
But I kind of feel like Hungry Box is being, a little too mean. He was taking it too seriously.
Yes.
Obviously, he was going to beat Reggie. There was no question of that. Obviously.
Maybe he was worried. I don't know.
Why would he be worried? He should have.
You never know. It's I don't know. Reggie's been training.
Had a good-natured fight, a good-natured game, but he kind of.
They should have done something where they disconnected Reggie's controller, but they actually had Mr. Sakurai in the back playing for him.
Yes!
That's what they really should have done.
They should have done that,
and nobody would have known.
Nobody would have known.
No.
And Mr. Sakurai could play with his hand behind his back.
Exactly.
So. Yeah, that would have.
He's bringing up debug menus. He's depowering Hungry Box. He's doing all this stuff. Yeah,
he's
can't lose.
edge guarding. He's gonna downbeat Hungry Box to the next oblivion. That'll learn him.
So that was an extremely entertaining interstitial. This exhibition, and then we have the big finale, which was this incredible Super Mario Maker finale.
Yeah.
Which featured all of these stages. And the competitors were John Numbers, who was one of the winners from a Best Buy, and Cosmo, who's this great speedrunner.
Yeah.
And they were playing in all these never-before-seen levels in Mario Maker that were made by Morgan Ritchie and Eric Smith of the Treehouse. Eric Smith, the same Eric Smith that I mopped the floor with in Smash Brothers a few weeks ago.
No longer at Nintendo, though.
Different situation at Mario Maker. These two, this is the Lennon and McCartney of Mario Maker creators.
This is such a good... I love this story so much because of this moment. Not only because it was just such an iconic moment of Nintendo competition history. It was this element of surprise that you had with the Mario Maker levels will never be replicated again. Even if you make more Mario Maker levels that are zany and cool, you will never replicate this moment. These moments where people were just popping off because you just didn't know what to expect. You didn't even see it coming that these levels were going to be made by these incredible people in the treehouse, and then having these like really unexpected things happen was just like such a magical thing. And the best part is that, you know, Morgan and Eric are like real life best buds for life. Like they are like the cutest two people ever. And you can just feel their love and passion that they like poured into these levels, and like even like their collaboration and their friendship, like that is what made these levels magical. And that's never going to happen again. Like they're never going to be able to do this again. It's amazing.
And at this time, Mario Maker was not out yet. And
No.
people did not know the scope of what you could do entirely in Mario Maker. So
Right.
this was a real like OMG moment as
Right.
all these crazy things were happening. All these weird mashups from Mario history were happening and playing out. And it's like they built these levels to basically troll these players and make it like mess with these super high level players. And I agree. It's like a top moment from any Nintendo event ever. Like we were in the crowd and we were just like on our feet, like cheering along. Like this is amazing.
We hadn't seen that. Like you can't react because before, even if you saw the levels, because you didn't know how the competitors were going to react to those things that they put in. So it was just such a magical thing that just never can happen again, which is really incredible to witness live.
So in the end, John Numbers won. Congrats to him. There was this big award ceremony with Mr. Miyamoto. And then they revealed that those Mario Maker levels are going to be in the final version of the game, which was like such a sweet moment for Morgan and Eric, because they didn't know that going into that. Like, that was a true, like, I'm hearing this for the first time thing for them. And what an incredible feeling that must have been.
I love it.
Yeah.
Best friends.
So it was definitely an entertaining event, but, you know, we quickly had to get to work of like analyzing it and doing reports for it. And it became it was a tricky event to make a decision on, like, was this successful or not? Like, we obviously had targets and metrics and, you know, hopes and goals going into it. And it was very kind of in the middle. I was like, well, it didn't completely smash our expectations, but it didn't completely bomb either. And it was just like, I think that was everybody's reaction coming out of it. It was just like,
yeah.
I don't know.
Being the first one, there was an element of like, let's forgive, you know, some of the results that were kind of mid in favor of experimentation. That was a very interesting time in the history of Nintendo, where they were rewarding experimentation. They were rewarding these things that nowadays they won't. Nowadays, if you don't get like the best result, you're not going to do the thing, you know? So there was that sense a little bit, but it was just kind of hard to determine whether or not it was completely a success overall.
Yeah. So, you know, coming out of it was like, wow, that was a really cool event. Like there were a lot of highlights and memorable moments from that, but kind of going into E3, like the feeling was like, oh, was that great or was that not? Like nobody really could say. So it had kind of a meh feeling on it, but it was a very memorable kickoff to what was otherwise like one of the absolute worst E3s that we were ever a part of.
Yeah.
So, you know, going from the highs of 2014 to the absolute lows, like this was the Nuppets digital event, Star Fox Zero, obviously like not a great game, not for everybody. A really weak end to that with like this Mario 30th anniversary celebration. Yeah. And just, you know, didn't really have the games in the booth that year either.
Right.
And it was like, wow, we really didn't do it this year.
Scraping the bottom a bit.
And yeah, I remember we got really like taken to task in a meeting by like a visibly unwell Mr. Iwata, which was just like, well, that's the cherry on top of this awful
that's
E3.
One of my like most horrifying core memories is like, that meeting and seeing Mr. Iwata just I'm still like a little anxious even talking about it, just like, oh, this is not going well. and like 2, like he's not well, you know, and you're like, oh my gosh, like it was really jarring. It was very, very, and I was like, it was like night, like late at night.
It was late,
too,
yeah.
I remember. And I was just like, I think I was like deer in headlights, like terrified.
Right. And he did not come to that E3. Yeah. And a month later, he had passed away. So yeah,
it scared me.
Yeah, I think a lot of people had that feeling, but yeah, that was definitely, you know, an interesting time to revisit and an interesting event. And I'm curious how they're going to translate this to this game. There was also a Nintendo World Championships in 2017 that we were involved with. I would say that one is significantly less interesting than this one.
Yeah, it really didn't hit, that one.
Yeah, I don't care for that one as much either. So maybe we will or won't tell the story of that if people are interested. But yeah, I think 2015 is a good one to look at when we're talking about Nintendo World Championships.
Yeah.
Now, we did have 2 of our Patreon subscribers in the building for Nintendo World Championships 2015. Cool. So we asked them to share some stories that they have. First from none other than Paul Gale. We're digging deep into the Paul Gale archive here. I'll read some thoughts from him. It felt like a celebration of Nintendo and not just a competition because there was lore, artwork, music that we all love, trivia swag, Nintendo folks that we all respect, like Shigeru Miyamoto present, and an energetic crowd. It felt important and almost necessary for Nintendo to put on this event. Wii U, sadly, was struggling for the last 2 years, and even though the 3DS was faring better, Nintendo in the public eye was not as powerful as it was several years prior. This was kind of a reminder to the mainstream that, hey, we matter. I'll always be a fan and supporter of the company, as I'm sure many in attendance were as well, but I think the Nintendo World Championships 2015 was also made in an attempt to wake up some dormant fans. Did it work? To a degree, yes. It walked so Nintendo Live could run. I think those are some good comments from Paul there.
Mm-hmm.
And then Tuskoob, developer of Kit and Krysta's Big Decision, Tuskoob.
Yeah, look at how far Tuskoob has come since 2015.
So we actually met Tuskoob at Nintendo World Championships.
Yeah.
At some point, a tent opened up with Kit and Krysta selling promotional t-shirts. We were in a tent?
I don't remember.
I guess we were. I waited in line and said something to the effect of, wow, you're Kit and Krysta from Nintendo Minute. This is cool. I think it was specifically Krysta that I got my shirt from. Around then, some representative or someone from Nintendo came up to me since I was cosplaying as Ness and invited me to sit up front since they wanted everyone clad in Nintendo costumes and gear to be in the camera view. Wouldn't happen today.
No.
This is amazing. After the event, Mr. Miyamoto came up to the stage just like in the first picture and was waving down at all the attendees who were up at the stage. However, when he got to the end of the crowd, around where I was, he reached down just to me and shook my hand using both arms. I kid you not. It was such an honor, and I don't know why he did that, but it was the coolest moment of my life up until that point. I remember telling my dad after, it's like he blessed me to confirm my path to becoming a game developer. Wow.
Oh my goodness.
Incredible story. See, lifelong memories are made here.
Oh, that's sweet. I think that is true. I think that's exactly why he did it.
Yeah.
So
wow.
Cool.
Big retrospective of Nintendo World Championships there. And yeah, we'll be talking about the game next week. Speaking of that, we can talk about some games we are playing.
Yes.
And I want to start by asking of what you have been able to do with this Elden Ring DLC being away from home.
I have tried at every location to play the Elden Ring DLC, like remotely, like via the remote play. And it has not gone well for me.
Oh.
Like the internet might be fast, but I think I have a latency issue because it just lags, like it just clips. So I have been trying, but not really having much success. So I haven't been able to play really at all, which has been kind of a bummer because I just felt myself getting sucked into it right before I left. And then I left and I feel like I'm just once again, like a little lost. Cause I just figured out some of the stuff, like how to run. And I really was excited to keep going. So now I feel like I lost a little bit of momentum, but I'm excited to go home and get back into it. But sadly, I have not been able to play much of Elden Ring.
Maybe the problem is that tiny shoebox of a media console that you have your PS5 in. I'm thinking there's going to be smoke coming out of that thing by the time you get back.
It it's very breathy in there.
Okay.
Very breathy. How about you?
I kind of went into this trip with the assumption like I'm not really going to be able to play this, because even if I could, like, that's a tough experience to shrink that game down to a small screen. So
I was playing on my laptop, so
yeah.
At least I had like a normal screen, and
Yeah.
I brought a PS5 controller with me.
I didn't bring any of that stuff, and it's just a shame that this DLC just kind of came out at a tough time for us.
Yeah.
And I want to get back to it, but I don't know exactly when I will. So I don't know. I don't want to start this segment off as like kind of a bummer with this DLC, but that's sort of where we are with this.
You're not going to keep going.
I didn't say that. I didn't say that.
What are you doing right now?
Well, I'm playing
Japanese.
Let's move on to our next game. Yes, I'm holding up my phone to a Starfy. I'm deep in Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga, which is our spoiler cast game for July. Yes. I'm quite concerned, based on your latest progress report, that you're going to have some all-nighter when you get back. We're recording this spoiler cast next Tuesday. One way or the other, you better be ready. It sounds like you're not.
Oh. Well, here we go.
So we'll save the big conversation for the spoiler cast, but like just generally, like, where are you in this game?
I think I'm like maybe halfway through-ish.
Okay.
I got some of the... Well, I don't want to spoil it, so I won't
This
say
game's like 20 years old.
Okay, fine. Then I will say that I got the hand powers.
Okay.
Already. I've already way past that part. And I've been making my way to the next area, but I was a little lost. So I think I needed a guide that I didn't have at the time. So that's where I stopped. I was playing a little bit like, while I was traveling around Vietnam, like on flights and stuff. So I've been trying to keep up, but I do think I'll have to catch up on it on that long flight home. So it should be fine. It should be totally fine.
I'm a bit further ahead. I think I'm about 14-ish hours. And my understanding is this game's like 18, 20 hours long. So I think I'm getting close. I've really had to think back to what is my experience with this specific game. Mm-hmm. Because I remember the last Mario and Luigi game, like, I really actively played was Bowser's Inside Story.
Yeah.
And I loved that game. But after that, I felt like the series got a little, kind of like Paper Mario, a little bit into the gimmick zone.
Yeah.
With like the Sleepy Luigi and the crossover with Paper Mario. And I for whatever reason, I was like, I don't think I want to play these. Mm-hmm. And this one, I think it's the same thing that happened with Metroid Zero Mission, where I had a friend who had it and I played it for a bit, but not a lot. And I certainly didn't beat it, and I never owned it. Yeah. I do own the 3DS remake, which I'm quite curious to check out. It's sealed though. It's still sealed. So I don't know what I'm going to do about that. I need to finish this version first before I even think about that. But I am curious of the differences. This game is fantastic. I'm really enjoying this game so far.
So good.
And for us, like, again, we've stacked up all these different types of Mario RPGs. So we have this different perspective on it.
Compare them. Yeah.
But I am really liking this one. I am really impressed at all the stuff they were able to do in a Game Boy Advance game. I'm playing on the Switch, NSO, that version. I like playing games on NSO. Like, I think the features are good. I think Game Boy Advance, for some reason, specifically looks really good.
It looks perfect.
Especially I like the filter that has all the different, the individual pixels on it.
Yes, exactly.
I think it looks phenomenal. I'm just very impressed with it overall, and I will leave it at that.
Do you have that issue though when you're not connected to the internet? It's like checking to see if software can be played.
That is so bogus. Yeah. So
like, how do I get around that?
Well, you connect to the internet is what you do. But the thing
you have to. That sucks.
The thing that sucks is it doesn't seem to do that for all of the NSO apps. So I was playing the Game Boy Advance one throughout my trip. And on the flight back, I was like, oh, I think they'd added some other games. I was like, oh, let me check those out. Those were like, you have not connected to the internet, so we can't open this. I was like, I've been on the internet. What's the deal? I've been playing this NSO. What do you mean? So that's a whole other, they got to fix that. That's lame.
Because every time it feels like I get off the Wi-Fi or something like that, it won't let me go back to it, which is annoying. So I don't know what to do.
It's a very aggressive system that they have.
But why?
They want you on this internet so they can make sure you're not doing something nefarious. What are you doing? What are you doing? You're trying to play your PS5 Elden Ring on a Switch. No wonder it doesn't work.
I don't like this.
Yeah.
I better figure it out so I can play it on the plane, though.
You really better.
I'll lose like 15 hours of time if I don't figure it out. How do I do it? I don't understand.
Isn't this the flight that you need to sleep on, though?
Yes. But I can still play for...
no.
I can still play for like 7 out of the... I mean, it's like 16... It's like a 15-hour flight.
So that's a problem that you can figure out for
8
yourself.
hours. At least 8 hours.
Full impressions, spoilers, etc. in our spoiler cast. That'll be out by the end of the month. Please look forward to it. Steamworld Heist 2 is a game that I have in full, and I have been playing. I did have to put it... I put it down recently because I wanted to prioritize Mario and Luigi. Oh. But it was... I am really liking Steamworld Heist 2. And
you said you were going to beat it.
As of now, I can only talk about a very small part of the game right now. So I'll save more for later. But the thing that I will say is... So there's the kind of the core missions that are, these 2D strategy missions. And then outside of that, you're in your little submarine going around the overworld. I really like the submarine stuff. That stuff is really fun and really good. Nice. And along the way, you get different upgrades for your submarine that let you do different things. There's a lot of exploration. There's some action in the submarine. In addition to going all of the missions, you can stop at these sort of friendly like hub areas and talk to different people and get little like background on the story and buy new stuff. So the whole loop that this game has of, mission, upgrade, explore, rinse and repeat is really good and really addictive. And the combat system and the missions are still as good as I remember them being. I think there's a lot of like smaller tweaks that they've introduced, and there's a lot more that you can do in terms of customizing your character that happens along the way. But this game is super good from the little bit that I am allowed to talk about right now. So I'll leave it at that. But I was very... That submarine stuff makes a huge difference.
I was into the submarine stuff when we played it at Summer Game Fest. I was like, okay, this adds a whole nother layer to this kind of gameplay that is that we both love and are kind of used to for these SteamWorld Heist type of games. But the submarine stuff just adds that other layer that I think is going to make it really interesting. So I can't wait to check out that more.
Yes. I also bit the bullet and tried out this Nintendo Switch Sports basketball update, which just came out. So
no.
This has 2 different things you can do. There's the 3-point contest, and there's like a 2-on-2 mode.
Okay.
Basketball also famously was in Wii Sports Resort. That 3-point contest is so epic, incredible, all-timer. The 3-point, I'm happy to say the 3-point contest in this is pretty much the same thing. The kind of mechanic they want you to do to shoot the ball is a little bit different, but I think it works well. Like there's a lot of nuance to it. You can tell it's really like being sensitive with the motion. So I was happy with that. The 2-on-2 mode, I was not happy with at all. Oh. And I'm going to say right now that it sucks.
Oh no.
It's, I'm a fan of basketball. I like basketball.
You too.
You're not going to be playing basketball anytime soon.
My leg though.
But it's so like stilted and disjointed. So you only play with one Joy-Con, which was the first red flag. I was like, well, how do I move my guy around? And basically you go like this to dribble the ball. Oh, and then your character always goes down a predefined path. And the other character can do these like cuts, like try and move and get away from the defender. So you have to choose to either just shoot along this path or pass it. And if the ball gets stolen by the other character, or if you miss a shot, the game just stops. And it's like, all right, now we're switching sides. So that your turn is over. It's like, this isn't how basketball works. It's like,
oh, that's boring. Yeah.
Right. So it's so on rails. and so restrictive. It's like, this is kind of removing a lot of the fun of, the creativity of playing basketball and coming up with a play.
Yeah.
It was a real bummer. And kind of an interesting contrast to the soccer game that they have there, which is very built out. And I like the soccer game in there. I think it gives you a lot of control, and there's a lot of different strategies that you can do, and, takes more advantage of deeper controls as well. So I was really hoping that it would be something closer to that, but it really is not.
Okay. At least it's a free update.
It's free.
And
I can say that. Yeah.
The 3-point challenge is fun. So you can play that, and it's free. So there you go.
Yeah. I think, based on the 3-point challenge alone, it's not a bust, but yeah, hopefully people have the right expectations going into 2-on-2, because I didn't like it. Yeah.
Okay.
Last thing. This is something that we actually played early at GDC, is a game from one of our great Patreon subscribers, Benjamin Rivers. This is a game called Neo Harbor Rescue Squad, which just got announced. It's coming out for PC and PlayStation.
Yeah. We played this and hadn't been able to talk about it until now. But this is such a fun game. It has sort of a trauma center, like you're playing as paramedics in the city called Neo Harbor.
Sort of a Hong Kong inspired city.
Exactly. It's modeled after a Hong Kong style city, which is great because you lived in Hong Kong and we both love Hong Kong. So the environment is actually really perfect. I was terrified by this game because the first thing you have to do is aggressively jam a needle into a trauma patient.
They need the medicine. You're saving lives.
Oh my God. Ooh, that was a visceral experience for me. I was like, oh, okay, maybe I can close my eyes and do this at the same time. But yeah, so, you're doing things like, triaging patients. And it's all like mini games based on, different control schemes and things like that. And you get sort of a points, how well you did at the very end. There's some great little story elements and characters and dialogue as well. But it is so fun. I hope that I don't kill all my patients because I'm very bad at the triaging.
There is one mini game that is especially tricky, where you're taking broken glass out of somebody's arm and you're using tweezers, and it's like you're supposed to just pull it out cleanly, but if there's any like give, it's like you're like slashing their arm open. Like, oh my gosh.
I was good at the setting the bones. I was good at that.
Yeah. The first time you do those mini games, it can be real interesting because you're just like, oh, I'm figuring out what to do, and then it's like, oh my God, I messed this up, and now this person's bleeding or their arm fell off. Or something. Yeah. It's like there's not a lot of games I can think of that are like inspired by Trauma Center. There's like the Surgeon Simulator that I think is in a whole other category and is a little bit weird, where you're like spilling out 19 rib cages and whatever else. But this felt like truly inspired by that, even down to like the art style a little bit. Yeah, I felt, and just like the general tone of it. So I was really happy with this. It was like
exciting,
just like such a breath of fresh air, and it's so cool that we know the developers. Like, I'm amazed at how many developers we have in our Patreon. Like the ranks are growing, and it's awesome.
Y'all get together and make a game.
Because that's something we don't know anything about. But we love playing your games.
I want to collab. I want to collab with all of the Kit and Krysta Patreon developers.
That's an amazing idea.
You guys get together and make something. I'm sure it's going to be amazing.
Yeah. So congrats on the announcement, Ben.
Yay!
All right. Almost time to wrap up with some Q&A. But we've been mentioning this Patreon so much. It's pretty cool. You get a lot of exclusive content like bonus Q&As, behind the scenes. I did the behind the scenes today. People got a first look at my bro stash.
Oh, okay.
That seems like a great selling point. First look at whatever nonsense I'm rocking that week. We
were doing behind the scenes on vacation. So I did it from like a rooftop in Vietnam. You did one of yours, I think, from Korea.
Yeah.
So it's an international
That's right.
behind the scenes, which is exciting.
Yeah, so check us out at patreon.com/Kit and Krysta. You can even get a free trial if you're on the fence. So check it out.
Yeah.
Let's start with the first question from Brewstash. Kit and Krysta, while working at Nintendo, were you ever told what the meaning behind the word Nintendo is? From what I've seen online, the common assumption of the meaning is leave luck to heaven, but I'm wondering if the meaning could be something else instead, and has it ever been mentioned inside Nintendo?
Yeah, that is I think the translation of it is like leave it to heaven, or leave it to, leave it to the universe to give you good luck, which is ironic because Nintendo is a company that loves control and they don't like leaving anything to heaven or anyone. So the irony is really hilarious. I do think that this name was, this brand was really developed in the early days. Nintendo has like an over 200-year
Which was a long time ago.
That's a very long time ago, very different time. They were making very different products, and it was kind of a lucky break when they, went from Hanafuda to games, or to toys, that kind of became like the beginning of this like mega successful brand and company. So I think the name was was definitely from yonder years, and maybe not as representative of the company's feelings nowadays. The thing that's really fun about sort of the name in conjunction to, being working inside Nintendo is there were some times where the company would talk about like the specific Nintendo DNA and how we would all have to really live and breathe that and embrace that. And I think the sort of the name was like an early beginning of that idea of the company having this very unique way of looking at things, way of doing things. And on the surface, it may not make a lot of sense to people that are either coming in from the outside or seeing it from the outside, but it makes sense to them. And it's something that's important. And, working there, we were sort of like osmosised into the company DNA. And I think even now, like I have it in me. And it's just something that's very unique to Nintendo as a company. And I think it kind of goes back to when they first developed this name in the sense of like, leaving luck to heaven, I guess.
Yeah, they do have a program for new hires to go through to, learn about the company and its history and all that. And that's something that they take them through is like, here's the name, here's what it means. And that is the translation that they use. So yeah, that is something that is conveyed to everybody when they come in. We have another question from Ice Climber Kirby. What are your thoughts on the E3 2018 Nintendo Direct? I personally thought it was epic because of the Everyone is Here slogan Super Smash Bros. Ultimate had. I was especially happy to see the veteran fighters, Ice Climbers, and the newcomer Daisy. The thing is, a lot of people didn't like this Nintendo Direct because it was mostly just about Smash Ultimate. Which side were you on? On another note, it was one of the last Directs with Reggie, a much more casual and family-friendly and much less grim and gritty Direct since Doug Bowser took over. Do you think the direction Nintendo Directs took were greatly influenced by Doug Bowser, or was this mostly on Japan's end? So this was the E3 that I was the lead for.
Yes.
And I actually did a lot on this Direct. I think I wrote Reggie's script for the little bits that he was in. And I also kind of proposed the ordering of everything up to Smash Brothers. So it's like we knew we're going to have this huge Smash Brothers segment that's going to close it out. But we had there was still a lot in that first, I think, like 20 or so minutes. Like that's where Three Houses
Prime 4
got revealed. Yeah.
Prime 4 was teased. Yeah.
I think that was 2017.
Oh, okay.
But there was Fortnite. Like it was a very good combination of first and third party. Like there was a lot of information following up on the announcement of the Pokemon Let's Go games, which had just been announced before. So I have fond memories of it just because I was involved in it. I think, within that constraint of knowing that, a big chunk of this is going to be Smash, we did the best that we could. But I could understand if you're not a Smash fan, like that's a lot of not for me.
Yeah. I was working on Smash, so it was like a lot of stuff that I was doing for it. So I was like into it, obviously, because, coming up with that tagline and working on like understanding what characters will be sort of revealed in that first look at Smash Ultimate was a lot of work and a lot of planning and a lot of, hearing Mr. Sakurai's thoughts about how he wanted to present this game, and it was great to just like kind of absorb, you know, his genius as he was like really developing how we're going to set this up and how we're going to this is like the kickoff to the big marketing that we did for Smash, and which lasted for a really long time with all the fighters passes. So it was sort of the stage setting of like, you know, all these characters are going to be finally here in one place, and what does that feel like? What does that mean? How are we going to continue this for a really, really long time? And yeah, I mean, I thought it was great. I thought it was really cool, and I could see his vision of this like kind of like a, this is it, you know, this is literally everyone is here and this is it. And I kind of got it, you know, and yeah, I thought it was pretty awesome that this was sort of the highlight of that E3.
Yeah. As far as the last question here about, you know, the change in directions and who was the cause of that's entirely a Japan decision of, you know, thinking, you know, the game speaks for itself, so let's just show the game, and you know, we don't need all these talky bits, which can't argue with the results lately, and you know, you can definitely miss what those directs used to be, but they're bigger than ever, so it's going well for them. Next, we have a question from James. How many games do you think is the right number to be playing at the same time? How many games do you think is too much to play simultaneously? Personally, I cannot play more than 2 games at once. Otherwise, I end up forgetting one and don't end up finishing it. Are there any games you've stopped playing and didn't end up finishing that you wish to pick up and try again soon?
Depends on the kind of game, but I can only play like one big game and usually one like side indie game or side smaller game that's very different from the big game at a time. So like I can play Elden Ring and like a little indie puzzle game, for example, at the same time. But if it's 2 games that are like too close together, like I cannot play, you know, like Elden Ring and Assassin's Creed, or like God of War and Assassin's Creed at the same time. Like that seems impossible. Yeah, so I'm with you. Like I think if there's more than 2, especially if they're similar, or like 2 RPGs, like who plays 2 RPGs at once? Like that seems impossible to be able to keep track of. Like I wouldn't be able to do that.
I'm surprised at your answer, because my answer is very similar. I really go one at a time, like unless it's a true dabble game, in which I'm fine with that. But like I was just saying, like I was trying to juggle Mario and Luigi and Steamworld, and I was doing that for a while. But then I just hit this point. It's like I'm going to lock in with Mario and Luigi, so I can lock in on Steamworld, because I just don't like the feeling of going back and forth, because I don't know, like those play sessions never feel as satisfying as far as like dedicating, like, well, I'm gonna dedicate a whole night to this, or a whole day of playtime to this, versus like, I split it up and I don't feel like I got as much out of it as I could have if I just focused on one.
Yeah, exactly.
So
unless they're 2 really different games, it's like Pocket Card Jockey and, you know, Mario and Luigi. Like, that's probably fine.
Sure,
play like 15 minutes of a smaller game as a palate cleanser, and then go back to your main game.
Yeah, and I've always felt this way. Like even when I was very young, I always preferred just focusing on one.
Yeah.
Next question is from Crushuri. What's up with the eShop's lack of a buy this game as a gift option? Lately, I've been looking to net a few people to play Puzzle Bobble Every Bubble with, which has team battles and online play, but to no avail. Meanwhile, I've been thinking of buying 3 copies of Bubble Bobble for friends on Steam. One for myself, and the other 2 as gifts for my Discord and IRL friends. While one doesn't have online multiplayer, the closest thing it has is a level editor where levels can be uploaded to the workshop, and I've been wanting to see what my friends can come up with. So far, though, Every Bubble is the only game in Bubble Bobble and Puzzle Bobble franchise that has actual online multiplayer, but unfortunately, it's a Nintendo Switch exclusive, so there's no way to gift a copy of the game to my friends, the server, or you guys. Do you think it would be possible for Nintendo to implement a buy as a gift feature in the future, similar to the one seen on Steam and Xbox? And since you guys worked at Nintendo and know most of the company in and out, what do you think Nintendo's stances are on that sort of feature? They need this badly.
They absolutely, I don't understand why they don't have this. This is such a good idea and such a like a no-brainer. They 100% need this. The thing with Nintendo and the eShop and just any sort of online shop is they are behind the times. They do not have like a lot of history doing this kind of stuff. And the eShop, sometimes is still kind of a mess. So I just feel like a lot of times with the eShop, like Nintendo has that perception of like, oh, that's a good idea, but we'll have to back burner that because we're busy with like 25 other things. Which is probably what happened with some of these kinds of features like gifting a game to a friend. But they should totally add this. It'd be so cool if you could do this. And I would 100% use that feature if it was possible.
Yeah, I think the eShop is the thing on the Switch that feels the most dated by a long shot. Like there's a lot of other things about the Switch that still feel great. But when you go into that eShop, it's real creaky. And it seems to be something where they've just kind of stopped making updates. And that was our experience as well. Like when we would hear about that team, it was like, yeah, they're aware of changes they need to make and changes they want to make. But they've kind of hit a point where like they're backed up or they can't get to it. So I think they have just like chambered up all these things that they want to do. So hopefully they do all of those from day one. On the Switch too.
On Switch too, yeah.
Especially since more and more people are buying digital and the eShop is just such a critical place.
Yeah.
And the current eShop is such a mess. But I've got to think this is going to be really high on their list.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Super GL is next. Do you know if Nintendo worked directly with voice actors who also create content on YouTube or Twitch? In general, some notable roles that I can mention are Anna Brisbane, aka Brizzy Voices, who played Viola in Bayonetta 3, and Damian Haas, a Smosh member and Twitch streamer who confirmed that he played Van Arkwright in The Legend of Heroes Trails Through Daybreak.
Nintendo works with a very specific agency on their voice actors, I think. And they, I think, would prefer not to work with someone that's an out there content creator because they're really terrified of the voice actor potentially stealing the spotlight from the game, which is why we had all that drama with the character, the new person that was voicing Mario after Charles Martinet
and Bayonetta. Remember that? Oh my gosh.
And Bayonetta, yes. And oh my gosh, who could forget that? I did.
You.
I know. I was like blocking it out because it was so ridiculous. But yeah, they don't like that. So I think they're incentivized to go with sort of lesser known voice actors, and they work with a very like select agency to source and interview their, or audition their voice actors. So I can see them staying that route and becoming even more private about that, just to not draw attention away from the game itself.
Yeah, unlike a lot of other companies, like Square Enix is on year whatever of touring with the Final Fantasy VII Rebirth cast, like Nintendo's not interested in using a voice actor in a promotional purpose. So I'm sure some companies would see like, oh, this person's a great voice actor and, they have this audience and these channels to reach out to them and get people excited. Nintendo's not interested in that at all. So I don't think that would be like, a non-starter if there was somebody they really wanted to work with, but they probably have a lot of discussion around that and make it known like, yeah, you're here to do this voice, not to, we've got our own methods for promoting it.
Right.
But it's certainly not something that they are seeking out as like a little bonus for these people.
Right, exactly.
Last question is from Tuscoop. Do you have any blind spots in terms of your gaming history that you'd like to someday fill or better learn about? For example, on myself, I've played many PS2, Xbox era games, many PS4 and beyond era, but outside the Wii, anything else from or popular during the PS3 360 generation is an utter absolute blank for me. Are there any specific systems or eras of gaming which you played very little of that you want to go back and try? Thanks for your time.
I feel like PS2, beyond like the really, really popular games, I do have a few blind spots there.
Oh.
Because I was really still into Nintendo stuff during that era. But like Final Fantasy, I think was the PS2 games that I was mostly playing. I do have a lot of blind spots with like game genres, like fighting games. Can't really be an expert there. Even the really popular fighting games like Tekken and Street Fighter, I'm only very casual, so I don't have a lot of, just a lot of like knowledge of that area. Horror games, obviously, I just am too scared to play it. I would love to like not be scared, and sometimes I try not to be, and I play like a Resident Evil game, and then I immediately regret it because it's just too scary. So I can't do that. And some of these other like newer games, like Left 4 Dead or like Last of Us, like I feel like I want to try them and I want to learn more about why they're so popular, but at the same time I'm also like either scared or I like intimidated by it.
You can't keep up with these Gen Z games. What's the deal with Subway Surfer?
Oh, I have been seeing a lot of people playing the Subway Surfer. I was like, oh, okay, this is a thing now. Yeah, okay.
Put
Subway
on your
Surfer
long
is
socks
Temple
and
Run.
play some Subway Surfer.
It is basically Temple Run.
I picked this question because I feel like this has been a theme for me this year of really like checking off a lot of blind spots. And it's interesting because it's like I've been playing games like since I was very young. Like feel very lucky to have come up with like since the NES when this really, started to get big. I've got a huge closet full of games over here, and yet there are still like really big games that I have not played. And this year we've just had the chance to like Paper Mario. Now there's Mario and Luigi, or we just did Metroid Zero Mission before. It's like a lot of those I hadn't played before, to the extent that sometimes like I feel a bit bad of like, gosh, we do a Nintendo oriented channel, and there's like all these big things that I haven't played yet. But that's just like a fact of being in this hobby, is like nobody's going to be able to play literally everything. And the people who say that they have are lying. They're liars, or they watch like a YouTube video of it on like 10x speed to get through it.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's just something that we all have to come to grips with is like, nobody has 100% knowledge. And that's what, makes this such a good community activity is, different people come together and they have different bits of knowledge and they can fill it in, and you can get excited based on something else that somebody else is talking about. But yeah, that's really felt like something that I have been doing a lot this year, which I appreciate the chance to do and to share that with everybody. But it is humbling to know like there's more out there than I'll ever have a chance to play.
Yeah, it's true. Maybe there's a way to clone ourselves. So we can play more games. Science!
Through the power of artificial intelligence.
Oh, an AI Krysta will play Mario and Luigi.
So. Yeah.
Perfect. At 10x speed.
No knees required in the
knees required.
In the Matrix for you. No, we don't need any of that.
That's true. Just hook me up, people.
Yeah. All right. Them's the questions. Thank you to everybody who sent one in.
Yeah. All right. We are going to shout out some wonderful Patreon community members. And we're going to do that thing where we just take a chunk and go for it. Yes?
Yes.
Okay, but
first we have our final boss, Aaron Hash.
Yes. Aaron Hash.
Please look forward to my facial hair featuring Aaron Hash, final boss, next week.
Where's your body, your full back tattoo that you were going to get in Korea?
I've been working on that. That's a multi-parter. Yeah, it's going to be big. Might have to go back. Superstars, I'll go first. Ben Icorn, Maru Mayhem, Eigenverse, Kiss My Flapjack, Mike Chip, Roy Eschke, Switching It Up _, VGM Life, Link the Hero of Winds, Angela Bycroft and her pig Molly, Thomas O'Rourke, take it away!
Kyle LaBeouf, Roberto Nieves, Frederick Wolf Conradson, Andrew Uhas, Chili, Bruce Dash, Simon, Krashuri, Master Discord, AJ Kunlas, and 40 Gig!
Wonderful! Woo-hoo! I'm going to pick it up and keep going. Where did we get all these new
people?
I guess something great's been happening with our Patreon. We have an all-time high of Patreon subscribers, which is just wonderful. This is the number one way that we keep this business going. So thank you very much. Yes, and thank you to anybody who's given us a look. Yeah. I'm going to continue with the One Up Club. Aaron Burgundy, Ale Alejandro, Astro Dev, Awesome 46, Bad Moon Horizon, Ben GB, Big N Gamer with a Y, Bookem Dano, Bookishly Fab, Brandon Cavapel, Brent Coco, Brent Dennison, Brooke Obscura, Brovak Novak, Called the Space Cowboy, Cameron, Shadir, Chelly Squirrel, Chris Cube, Crispysaurus, Christopher Lay, Captain Alex, Crimcat, Christabal, Sea Roper 17, Dachshund, Doinko, Elite Peach, Espars 50, Fart Priest 69, Fairbound, Fernie and Just Forever, Fox Deploy, Garth the Wolf, Gartooth, Guilty Phoenix 42, Heroic, Iris Marin, Ivancito, Jay Rando, Jack Hoving, Jeffrey Hernandez, Jesse Hernandez, Joe Encarnacion, Jonathan Rowe, Jordan Collette, Jordan Hemmerly, Joshua Clements, Juji Fruit, Justin Lemminger, Kawa2796, Keith Kwan, Kevin Delane, Kilo Kibo, Christopia Party With Me, Kyle Gamerberry Rookie, Kyle Kretzer, Lazy Cat for Coffee, Lex, Lit, Lynn, Macho Potato, Mad Dog 5981, Magnificent Easy G and Callie Marie, and I'm handing it off to you!
With Marky Man 64, Mario Man 392, Mr. Bean, oh wait, no. M. Bukar, Mecha Dragon 101, Megan, Michael Cravens, Mikey, Mr. Ryan 07, Motomania, Mr. Andy Pong, Mr. Beans and Dip, MSN Poke Gamer, My Tran, Nasir, Nathan Burkhart, Naif E, Ninja 11, Pangy, Pascal, Paul C. Pace, Paul Gale Network, Prime Factor, Prince Charmless, Raver, Raintech, Record Rumble, Ryuji Utsuho Okuu, Ryoth 1, Rob, Roman Klachinsky, Rocks, Ryanetta, Sakura Sky, Sharif Jackson, Shinryu, Schmiggles, Slowbro, Skazzle, Spacey Poo, Spicy Munchkin, Steel Citrone, Swimmy Fish, Tales of Link, Tay120N64, Teal Fox 64, The Kagers, The Shark Among Men, Thomas Alvarez, Three Rivers, Timmy V, Torcheeks, Totally Joe Ed, Travis Torline, Trajowie, Tugs Puppy Bear, Tuskoob, Tyler Geis, Video Game Stupid, Vitch Mictor, Viridian, VirtualBot, Weeb Kingdom, WG Greasy, Wayu, Wicked Davy, Will Johnson, Zelgaroth, Zapatty, and Zride.
What size font do you have this on where you gotta get this close to the thing? Like,
it was really
I'm reading this text.
Your eye was huge. Wait, do that again. Your eye was
That's how a camera works. Good to know we still got this podcasting thing down after taking a couple week break.
Yes, I have a broken leg, but everything else is fine.
I have a broken face.
You have a broken face, and I have a broken knee.
I have some facial shortcomings at the moment.
On that note, I hope that you remedy your facial shortcomings before I get back next week, people, in person in the studio.
That's right. Get excited.
We'll see what antics we get up to there. But we're going to wrap it up for today, and we'll see. Oh, no, we can't do that yet. We have to do the thing.
Oh, no, you've forgotten.
I totally forgot. I was thinking we were doing a different video. Patreon. Subscribe. It's great. It keeps us going. Please join us at patreon.com/KitandKrysta.
For watching on video, you can also subscribe, give this video a thumbs up, and leave us a comment. And if you're listening on audio, you can also subscribe, give us a 5-star rating, and a written review if you please.
And we're on the socials. We're on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, YouTube, and Threads. Now we can leave.
Yes.
Bye.
Bye.